Hi, this is Creative Growth, and you are listening to Creative Growth Podcast. How to stop overthinking. It's 2 a.m. You're lying in the dark, exhausted. Your body wants to sleep. But your mind has other plans. It's replaying that conversation from 3 days ago, the one you can't stop picking apart. It's rehearsing tomorrow's difficult email for the 14th time. It's running through every possible way something could go wrong. It's asking the same question it always asks. But what if? If you know that feeling, that exhausting, relentless, completely involuntary loop, this episode is for you. Welcome back to Creative Growth, the space for women who want to grow quietly, intentionally, and on their own terms. I'm so glad you are here today, because this topic, I think it's one of the most important ones we have covered. Overthinking is one of those things that almost every woman I've spoken to struggles with, and almost nobody talks about honestly. We treat it like a personality quirk, like it's just how our brain works. We laugh about it. Oh, I'm such an overthinker. But underneath the jokes is something that is genuinely exhausting, genuinely painful, and genuinely getting in the way of your life. Because here is what overthinking actually costs you: sleep, energy, confidence, presence, joy, the ability to make a decision and move on, the ability to have a conversation without replaying it afterwards for 3 days. Today I want to give you something real. Not just think positive or just stop worrying. We are going to look at what is actually happening in your brain when you overthink. The psychology behind it. The science. Because once you understand why it happens, it loses some of its power over you. And then I'm going to give you 4 practical exercises. Not theories, not mindset shifts, but actual things you can do to interrupt the loop. So let's start at the beginning. First, what is overthinking, psychologically speaking? Psychologists call it rumination. And the technical definition is this. Rumination is repetitive, passive focus on negative thoughts and feelings, replaying the same thoughts over and over without moving toward any solution. And that last part is important. rumination is not problem solving. It feels like problem solving. It feels productive. Like, I'm thinking about this so carefully, I must be working on it. But you are not moving. You are just spinning. There's a beautiful and slightly devastating analogy I love. A rocking chair. You are moving. You are working hard. You are expending energy. But you are going nowhere. Researchers have found that overthinking and rumination actually worsen mood. They don't improve it. The more you analyze a problem without taking action, the more distressed you feel. The more distressed you feel, the more you ruminate. And so the cycle feeds itself. Psychologist Susan Nolan Hexema at Yale, one of the world's leading researchers on rumination, found that nearly 73% of women aged 25 to 35 experience chronic overthinking. Women overthink significantly more than men, partly due to how we are socialized to process emotions verbally and internally. So, why does your brain do this? If it makes you feel worse, why does it keep happening? Here is the answer, and I want you to really hear this, because it changes how you feel about yourself. Overthinking is not a flaw. It's a survival mechanism that has misfired. Your brain's primary job, before creativity, before connection, before anything else, is to keep you safe. And the way it keeps you safe is by anticipating threats, by scanning for danger, by asking what if, so that you can prepare. In the ancient world, this was essential. If you heard a sound in the dark, you needed your brain to immediately generate every possible explanation and prepare for the worst one. But your brain cannot tell the difference between a physical threat and a social one. It cannot distinguish between a lion in the grass and an email you need to send. It processes the awkward conversation at work the same way it would process a genuine emergency. So, when your brain replays that uncomfortable interaction 40 times, it genuinely believes it is helping you. It thinks it is preparing you. It thinks it is keeping you safe. The problem is, in the modern world, most of the things we overthink are not threats at all. They are uncertainties. And our brain hates uncertainty more than it hates almost anything. Overthinking is your brain's attempt to create certainty in an uncertain world. And once you understand that, you can stop fighting your brain and start working with it instead. There is one more thing I want to explain before we get into the stories and exercises. And it's the anxiety loop. Research shows that overthinking and anxiety fit each other in a very specific way. Overthinking creates stress. That mental spinning activates your body's fight or flight response, releasing cortisol, a stress hormone. And that physical stress response then makes your thoughts feel more urgent, more threatening, more real. So you think more, which creates more stress, which makes the thoughts feel more real, which makes you think more. This is why overthinking can feel completely uncontrollable. Because by the time you notice you are doing it, you are already in the loop. Your body is involved. Your nervous system is activated. Your thoughts feel like facts. The exercises I'm going to give you today are designed to interrupt this loop at different points. Some work on the body. Some work on the thought itself. Some work on the behavior that follows. You don't need all four. You need the one that works for you. One more time. You don't need all four. You need the one that works for you. And you will know which one that is when you try it. But first, 3 women. 3 different overthinking that I think you will recognize. The first story is about a woman I will call Mia. Mia was a replayer. Her overthinking always lived in the past. After any conversation, a meeting, a dinner with friends, a phone call with her mother, Mia's brain would immediately begin the post-match analysis. Did I say the wrong thing? Did I come across as too much? Did I hurt someone without realizing? Was that comment I made actually funny, or was everyone just being polite? She would replay conversations word by word, sometimes for days, imagining different things she could have said, cringing at things she did say, constructing elaborate theories about what other people had thought on her in that moment. The exhausting irony was that the people in those conversations had almost certainly moved on within minutes. But Mia was still there. In her head, in that room, in that moment, long after everyone else had left. What Mia was experiencing is what psychologists call post-event processing. Post-event processing. A very common pattern in people with social anxiety and high sensitivity. The event is over, but the brain keeps returning to it, trying to find certainty about how it went, trying to guarantee that she is still safe, still accepted, still okay. The past, for Mia, had become a place her brain refused to leave. The second story is about a woman named Jade. If Mia overthought the past, Jade overthought the future. Jade's brain was a catastrophe generator. Before any important event, a job interview, a holiday, a difficult conversation she needed to have, she would spend days or even weeks running through everything that could possibly go wrong. Every worst-case scenario mapped in detail. Every potential disaster prelived in her mind. She told herself she was being prepared, that thinking it through in advance meant she would be ready. But what she was actually doing was experiencing the worst version of future events over and over, vividly before they had even happened. She was suffering twice, once in her imagination, and once if it actually went wrong. And here's the thing. It almost never went as badly as she'd imagined. But her brain never updated. It never registered, I worried about this for a week and it was fine. It just moved on to the next thing to worry about. What Jade eventually understood was this. Worry is not preparation. Preparation is action. Worry is just fear dressed up as thinking. The third story is one I think a lot of you will recognize, because it's about the smallest things. Her name was Rosa. And Rosa's overthinking didn't show up in dramatic life decisions. It showed up in Tuesday afternoons. Should I send the email now or wait until tomorrow? Is this the right time to bring up the issue with my friend, or should I wait? Should I take this job or stay? Should I move or stay? Should I say something or let it go? Rosa could spend 45 minutes deciding what to reply to a text message. She could lie awake not over the big things, but over whether she'd made the right call on something small, something that no longer mattered, something that the other person had probably already forgotten. What Rosa was experiencing is called decision fatigue combined with perfectionism. The belief that there is a right answer and that her job is to think hard enough until she finds it. And the more she tried to think her way to certainty, the more elusive certainty became. Because here is what Rosa had to learn, and what I want you to hear. Most decisions are not as permanent as your brain tells you they are. And the cost of not deciding, the energy spent in the loop, is almost always higher than the cost of making the wrong call and adjusting. Now, here are 4 exercises. Each one works differently. Try them all and keep the one that works for your brain. Exercise 1 is called the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding technique. And it works because it does something very specific. It pulls your brain out of the thought loop by forcing it into the present moment through your senses. When you notice you are spiraling, stop wherever you are and do this. Name 5 things you can see right now. Name 4 things you can physically feel. The chair, the feet on the floor, the temperature of the air, anything. Name 3 things you can hear. Name 2 things you can smell. And name 1 thing you can taste. That's it. By the time you reach the end, your nervous system has shifted. Because your brain cannot fully ruminate about the past or future when it is actively processing the present through 5 different sensory channels simultaneously. This is grounding. And it is not a trick. It is neuroscience. Exercise 2. I actually like it. It's called the worry window. The worry window. And when I first heard about this, I thought it sounded completely weird. But the research behind it is solid. Here is how it works. You choose one specific time each day, 15 minutes, no more, only 15 minutes. And that is your designated worry time, your worry window. Anytime during the day when an overthinking thought appears, you don't engage with it. You notice it and you say out loud or in your head, I will think about this, for example, at 6 p.m. Then at 6 p.m. you sit down You set a timer for 15 minutes and you worry properly, on purpose, about everything that came up. You sit and worry. What this does is extraordinary. It trains your brain to understand that the thought is not being dismissed. It will be heard. That takes away the urgency. The brain stops screaming because it knows it will get its 15 minutes. And when 6 p.m. actually arrives, well, most of the things you set aside during the day no longer feels as urgent as they did, because you have had distance, because you have had life in between. The worry window gives you your day back without pretending the worry doesn't exist. It is great, isn't it? Exercise 3 comes from cognitive behavioral therapy, which is one of the most evidence-based approaches to treating overthinking and anxiety. It is called the thought on trial, and it works like this. When you catch yourself stuck in a thought, they definitely think I'm incompetent or this is going to go terribly wrong. You put that thought on trial. You ask 3 questions. 1. What is the evidence for this thought? What actually supports it? 2. What is the evidence against it? What am I ignoring or dismissing that contradicts this thought? 3. What would I say to a close friend who was having this exact thought? Most of the time, when you actually examine the evidence, the thought doesn't hold up. It was built on assumption, on fear, on one data point taken out of context. And putting it on trial makes the part of your brain that responds to logic, not just emotion, engage with it. Your thoughts are not facts, but they feel like facts when they go unexamined. Again, your thoughts are not facts, but they feel like facts when they go unexamined. The thought on trial is how you examine them. Exercise 4 is the simplest and sometimes the most powerful. It's called the 2-minute action rule, and it is based on one of the most consistent findings in research on rumination. Action is the most effective interruption to the overthinking loop. Not a big action, not solving the whole problem, just a micro step, the smallest possible movement toward resolution. Because remember, overthinking feels like action, but isn't. The moment you take any actual step, however small, you shift from passive rumination to active engagement. Your brain registers, I am doing something, and the cortisol drops. The loop slows. So when you notice yourself going in circles about something, ask, what is the smallest possible action I could take in the next 2 minutes? What is the smallest possible action I could take in the next 2 minutes? Send the draft, write the first sentence, make the appointment, send the voice note, book the call. You don't have to solve it. You just have to move, because motion, even the tiniest motion, is the antidote to the paralysis of overthinking. Mia learned to let conversations end, in her head as well as in the room. Jade learned that worry is not preparation, and that her imagined worst case almost never came true. Rosa learned that most decisions are reversible, and that the cost of the loop is always higher than the cost of the wrong call. And now you know something important about your own brain. You are not broken for overthinking. You are not weak. You are not too much. You have a brain that is trying, in the only way it knows how, to keep you safe in an uncertain world. Your job is not to silence it. It's to work with it, to give it better tools, to meet its needs for certainty with something more useful than more thinking. And remember, you are not your thoughts. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who notices them. And that, the space between the thought and your response, is where your freedom lives. Before you go, I want you to do one thing today. Pick up one of 4 exercises, just one. The one that felt most like it was made for you. And use it the next time you notice your mind beginning to spiral. Then come back and tell me in the comments, which one did you choose and what happened? I will read every single comment. And I want to hear your story. If this episode helped you, please share it with one woman in your life who spends too much time inside her own head. That's the greatest thing you can do for this channel, and it might be exactly what she needs today. Subscribe if you are not already. New episode is coming. And every single one is made with you in mind. Until next time, take one small action. Notice one thought without becoming it. And remember, your mind is powerful, but it is not the boss of you. Have a good day and a great week. Bye.